Like you are enough. You've got everything. Like you are holding yourself back for no reason. Go all in.
Like strategically, there's two things for me. There's like an internal and external.
The team believes in it enough that they're like, I want to stop doing other stuff. I want this to be my focus.
And today we're speaking with the military millionaire. Dave, welcome to the show.
Fun, man. The goal is to help 10,000 vets achieve financial freedom for 2035.
10,000 by 2035. Got it. Cool, dude. I love that, man.
Like I would rather have the guy on the fence never join than have to play with the drama of someone joining and then wanting a refund and then having buyer's remorse.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Die Hard Entrepreneur Stories. I am your host, Devin Ramos, and today we're speaking with the military millionaire. He is Dave Pere, the founder of the War Room Mastermind and From Military to Millionaire community, which helps service members and veterans learn how to build wealth through real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and personal finance. Dave is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, and content creator. He started his wealth journey through buy and hold real estate and since has scaled to over 100 units. He's done this all while educating fellow service members and veterans, building a community of over 70,000 members. He's also an in-demand speaker and author. Today, we'll cover his strategic shift from hustle to high-performance investing, some important business lessons learned, and how he built a movement around military financial literacy. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me. Sorry if I looked like I was looking all over the place. I realized I hadn't stuck you up on my screen. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I spent all this money.
You're all good.
I can talk directly to the host, and then I'm like still staring down here in the corner. But anyway.
I'm having my own issues over here, so we're all good. I do that too sometimes.
I like it.
I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah.
Dude, so one thing I don't think I know, and maybe this is out there, but the From Military to Millionaire community, that name, From Military to Millionaire, where did that come from?
Okay, I have talked about this, but it's probably not enough that anyone really knows because it's been a while. Funny story. So the whole brand started, it's actually really kind of serendipitous because I had networked with Brandon Turner at one point when he was trying to move to Hawaii. I was stationed in Hawaii. He came back to Hawaii and I was just like, hey man, I know you love to surf. The best beaches on base or the best surfing beaches on the island are on the Marine Corps base, but you can't get on without a pass. So why don't you guys come over for dinner? We'll go surf or whatever. And so they did. They came over for dinner. We hung out at the beach for a little bit. They came over for dinner. While he was there, I asked him about really just like, hey, how did you write a book? Like, I would love to write a book. And at the time, it was nothing real estate. I kept a mission log and a journal from Afghanistan. And I had so I could be like, hey, on September, whatever, Dave hit an IED and here's how he felt that night. So I thought it'd be cool to write a book that was like what a 20-year-old Motor T Lance Corporal went through instead of like all the books written right now about Afghanistan are SEALs, And so like, what does the normal dude do? And then he basically suggested I start a blog so that I learn how to write. And I was like, well, that's cool, but what do I write about? He's like, I don't know, dude, you do real estate. There's not a lot of military guys talking about real estate. Why don't you just document that? And I don't know. I was smart enough or dumb enough that when Brandon suggested something, I ran with it. So I spent all month on YouTube, and that month I launched a blog. And but funny, I came up with like 10 or 20 names that I thought would be really catchy, and I threw them all into my personal Facebook. And I was like, "What do you guys think?" And nobody liked any of them. There was no consensus. And my buddy Joel, who actually never served in the military, in fact, I met him when I was a recruiter in the military. He was a kid who played hooky a lot and ran the local Cars and Coffee. And I had a car, so we hit it off in that niche. And Joel was the one who came up with From Military to Millionaire. And he's like, I bought this domain and I think it's a good name. You should run with it. And I was like, that is catchy. And so it's pretty funny. Yeah. So I can't even take credit for the name that has arguably been a huge proponent to the reason that we've seen success, because people like it's catchy. It resonates enough that I've had to trademark a whole bunch of people now because they're all trying to rip it off.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that. Do you own like the rights, likeness, all that stuff now? Or I love that, dude.
For 4 different categories of like product or service. Yeah. And I have had to threaten it a couple times. Like there's a couple Facebook groups. There's one Facebook group online that if you were to go to it, when you go to click join on the like description of the group, it says the first line is asterisk, not in any way, shape, or form affiliated with. And like, because I basically was like, I'm going to own your group, or you're going to change the name, or you're going to put this really obnoxious disclaimer in that points to mine. And that was what I wanted. I was like, I don't want to shut you down, but I just need people to know this isn't me. And because he wasn't in the real estate space, he was, I don't know what he like option. I don't know what he does, but not real estate. And so I wasn't going to shut him down, but there have been a couple that have been like, somebody bought Millionaire LLC.com, and they're like two Marines raising capital for real estate investments and doing real estate education. And I'm like, guys, like, you and I have had a conversation before. There's no way you can pretend you didn't know I existed. This is, and so that one we had to have some changes on.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like there's, it's one to do it maliciously or to try to like, use your brand, your like the likeness of your brand to, make things better for yourself. And then it's a whole nother thing just to like innocently, unintentionally do it. Right.
Yeah. And here's the shitty thing. Like, I don't like or want to confront 90% of these. There are some guys who like I kicked out of my group for soliciting, and then they went and started a knockoff. And those guys, like, fuck them. Yeah. I'll destroy their stuff. But by and large, like, I am not the guy who's going to like try to win by cutting your legs out from under you so much as the guy who's going to just win in by outworking you, or outplaying you in the game. Like, I'm a strategy guy. I prefer to do that than like, anyway, the problem though, and a lot of people don't realize this with trademarks, they're like, oh, this brand's such an asshole sending me a cease and desist. If you don't fight somebody who has a likeness and you just let them be, then when you do go to fight, anyone else can make the argument, well, this person's been here for 6 years and you never sent them anything. So you didn't defend your mark. So you lost your mark. So if you do not defend your mark, you lose it. And so this happened. Probably the weirdest example is, I can't remember if it was Warner Bros. Or whoever owned the rights to the word superhero lost them last year because they didn't fight. There was somebody using it, some comic or whatever, using the word superhero, which was trademarked by whichever group, I'm not a comic nerd, but Marvel or whoever, I think it might've been Marvel. And this group had been just playing around with it for years. And so eventually somebody fought them on it and was like, hey, we don't think you should. Like, they were like, oh, hey, you guys are getting huge. Like, we're going to trademark you or whatever. And then that company cited this other company. It was like, well, you never fought them on it. You lost your mark because they've been doing it for years commercially and blah, 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 blah. And so it's like this weird game where I'll go to my trademark attorney and be like, do we have to say something? He's like, 100%. And I have to send a message or something so that I can always show like, and it kind of stinks because I'm like, I don't want to be a jerk to half these people, but I have to say something because in the off chance someone ever got big enough to fight me on it, I have to be able to prove that I have always stuck up for my brand. So it's a weird, like, I never knew that about it. I kind of figured you just got the trademark and you're good. Nope. You have to be a dick to everybody now, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, that's good to know. I hear a lot of times when it comes to IP, not everybody, oftentimes I hear advice such as find a good attorney, find the best attorney, find a good attorney. So I don't know if you do or don't agree with that, but what is your advice from your experience on finding said good attorney? How do you go about that?
Andy found me actually. I don't remember if it was an Instagram post that I made or if we just talked back and forth on Instagram. But he and I had talked a couple different times over the years where it was a non-issue. And then it was ultimately that Millionaire LLC group where I reached out to him and was like, I got to do something about this. What do I do? Like, how does this work? Because I was like, this one's a little bit egregious and it's going to only get worse. And, but he had been someone that I think he originally reached out because I asked a question on my Instagram story about trademarks and he messaged me, and then I've been following his content for a while, and he's an Army vet who does trademark stuff, and he's been really good. He actually came and spoke to the War Room a little while back because I was like, dude, there's so much about trademarks I didn't know. Like, come talk about this, at least so we have it like set aside for people who it may matter to. Admittedly, the trademark process sucks. It's like, I want to say it was like it was close to, if not a year, maybe even longer, to get all 4 of them approved. The last one just got approved last month. And it was probably like $4,000 to $8,000. It's probably like $1,500 to $2,000 a piece in like 8 to 18 months. But it goes off the day you started using the mark. As long as you filed for it, it doesn't have to be approved before you have rights. It's a weird, but anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, cool. Well, so you have this run in with Brandon Turner, which is pretty cool. What year was that roughly?
January of 2018.
Okay, and you were already investing in real estate prior to that.
I think at that point I had owned 12 or 14 doors. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Oh, so you'd done it for a little bit, enough to be dangerous, right?
Something like that. Ironically, the day I closed on my 10-unit property, it was actually the day that I had met Brandon. So that was pretty funny. So it was just a weird like timeline of stuff. So I met him and then we ended up surfing, long story. And, by the way, I'm not any good at surfing. I'm not trying to portray that, but but we were sitting out on surfboards chatting, and it happened to be the day that it had closed, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Okay. So what got you into real estate investing? It sounds like you were in the military, active duty. Oftentimes our guests, I myself, did something else to generate cash first and then started putting it into real estate. I don't know if you followed a similar approach or if you didn't, how did you go about it?
Oh no, I was broke. I tell this story. So my very first duplex I bought with an FHA loan, and I house hacked. And I bought FHA because I went to use the VA, and the lender told me you could only use the VA loan once, so don't waste it on this property. That's part of why I'm so passionate about the VA loan now, because I'm like, that one only really cost me like $4,000, but that was $4,000 I didn't have at the time. Like, to put in perspective, I was only able to actually afford to put the down payment, like the $3,500 or whatever, on this duplex because I had been sitting at a bar with my motorcycle and somebody had been intoxicated and parked, not on top of it, but basically they hid it in the parking lot. And he comes in and he's like, "Who owns the Harley?" And I was like, "Me." And then we go outside and it's like, I rode it home, but I shouldn't have. And so they totaled the bike out because the frame was tweaked, and he owned a car dealership, and he's like, what would you have asked for to sell this bike? And I was like, I don't know, $8,000. He's like, cool. He cuts me a check. He's like, please don't let me go to insurance. Like, this will go against my dealerships and it'll be expensive. And so he just cuts me a check in the parking lot for what I thought the bike was worth. And then ironically, Harley bought the bike off of me for like $4,000. So I basically got, I think I paid like $12,500 for it, and then I put like 11 or 12,000 miles on it and got 12 back. So it was great. But that money from the Harley, that check, that was 3 weeks prior to me going under contract on this duplex, and that was the only money that I had to put as a down payment or do any work. So had it not been for that, I might have done a TSP loan. I don't know what I would have done. I had like $10,000 in the TSP. Like, there were not a whole lot of options. I would not have been able to execute on that. So when people are like, "Oh yeah, I did," I'm like, no, I was fucking broke. Like, I had a negative net worth for sure when I bought that first house. But
oh wow,
yeah,
okay, yes. So that's that's a big deal. And to your point, what a silly lender telling you.
I know
some nonsense about him.
Dude, you can use the most I've seen is my buddy Naaman. Naaman has used the VA loan 4 times on 4 separate duplexes. That's the most. And I shouldn't say that. I know people who've used the VA loan more than 4 times. He had 4 individual VA loan mortgages out at the same time. All of them were around 150 to 200K purchases in different like Midwest markets. So he is the most I've ever seen at once. And it was 4 different properties on the VA, which is killer. I don't know that anyone, I don't know how anyone would get past 4, but still, like, the point remains. Yeah, absolutely. You can use it more than once. There's a lot of different ways to skin that cat.
Yeah, 100%. All with everything on the up and up and everything. I've used it twice. I would have used it a third time, but I ended up bringing, because I was able to negotiate, less to the table on FHA than VA. So it just made more sense.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, and then you save some entitlement because the FHA, like, why not? I used the FHA and it was great. It's a great product. It's just, it's like saying it's like the LeBron and Michael Jordan argument, right? It's like whichever one you think is the GOAT, the other one's still also really good. And like, so it's like, yeah, the VA is better, but the FHA is still better than everything else out there. So,
yep, 100%. Cool. I love it. So you got into that duplex, and then it sounds like very quickly started to scale up. And I think, to put it in your own words, I've heard you say before, started chasing units. Talk to me about that and sort of like what happened there. Like, why did that happen? How'd you go about that?
Yeah. So yeah, I bought the duplex. My next purchase, well, I bought a vacant lot, but that wasn't, I justified it as an investment, but it wasn't really. And then I bought the 10 unit, and then I bought a duplex after that. So I'm at like 14 doors. And then I had read that magical book by Grant Cardone where you just 10x everything. And so in my head, I had decided I wanted to buy 3 properties in 2018. And then I was like, no, let's put a 0 on the end. Let's buy 30 doors. And I found this 40 unit mixed use. It was like, I'm going to mess up. It was like 25 residential units and like 15 commercial. It was a cool building. Like it's a super sick building. If anyone's familiar with Branson, Missouri, it's the Majestic Steakhouse, or what was the Majestic Steakhouse. It's got a murder mystery theater in it. It's got an escape room in it. It's got like a freaking bar that was on like an 1800s era German like cruise liner like in it. I mean, it's got some really cool stuff. It was this monstrous steakhouse that went out of business. And so it has like 2 commercial kitchens. It had like a family that plays quartets and stuff. Like if you've ever been to Vegas, Vegas is like old people Vegas, and or Branson is like old people Vegas. And so it's like all these old timey shows, and it's like Vegas without the partying. And so this place had like the bottom floor was all residential units because the steakhouse had been so big that they had employees live. Like they would let employees, they would comp part of their pay to just live on site. This is like a 4-story, like 64,000 square foot steakhouse. And this thing had like a Century 21, like all this great stuff. And I chased it, and I was like so stoked that I bought it on this lease option, $150K down, at a 2.895 million purchase price, and had all this room to run. And I mean, there's a whole episode out on this bad boy on Bigger Pockets, but essentially the guy had frauded all the numbers. The property like did not perform anywhere near what was desired. And then come to find out like 3-4 months into this bad boy that he had done this lease option, kind of scammed 3 or 4 other people and just taken their money when they tried to break the lease. And, well, I'm really stubborn, and I did not have a whole lot of money at the time. So right now I might just cut the loss of $150K. Back then he got a 4-year lawsuit, and I got, all of our money back plus 4% interest for the duration of the lawsuit, plus legal fees, plus whatever. But it was a 4-year miserable debacle, but it's also why I'm very confident now when I go into legal stuff, because I've won a case on like fraudulent misrepresentation, and like wholehandedly. Like there was no the notes from I actually tried to get Bigger Pockets to like upload the notes from the case, because I was like, dude, the notes on this are wild. The judge is just like, I mean, it's basically like written as F you, other guy I just destroyed him through stuff. But this dude had gotten away with it like 5 times, 4 times. I would have been the 5th, and people had rolled over, and he'd walked away with between 100 and 250K. And so, yeah, that was, my chasing doors led me into buying a mixed use building that I had no experience with in a city that's 45 minutes from my city, and I took the on-site property manager on without vetting instead of using my own property manager like I should have. And it bit me in the ass real hardcore humble pie for a long time. And which is where I finally was like, that property was 40 doors and it cost me an arm and a leg. Like I could not sustain the profit, the mortgage on it. And then I got these other, this other duplex that's just paying me every month, like clockwork. And I was like, so that's kind of why like people talk doors all the time. And the other thing is a lot of people talk doors when you're on my side of the kind of influencer space, you see behind the curtain more. And so you'll hear a guy go on a podcast and talk about how they have 2,000 doors. And then you're like, wait a minute, you like LP invested in those 2,000 doors. You own and so like I own, it's like something like 11 or 1,200 doors that I'm a GP on in syndications. But 870 of those I own 0.03% of. And so I'm like, I will talk about them if people ask, but I'm never like, I own 1,500 doors. It's like, no, I own 100 doors, 100 plus doors. And then I also have investments in another like 1,200 doors. And some of those are significant. Like I own 12.5% of one of them. But they're, the influencer game of just like running around talking about how many doors you have. It's actually kind of funny right now because you don't see it so much right now because a lot of those guys in the syndication circuit who were only talking about doors are currently going through a whole lot of unfun experiences, and they're very quiet, which is kind of comical. But
yeah, absolutely. What has been sort of your approach to combat that? Because from hearing you speak, I can understand both sides, and on the one side, it's like, man, what do I do? Like everybody's fluffing their stuff. Everybody's, kind of like setting this trap. I just want to be me over here. But at the same time, I could see this. I personally feel like I have a duty and obligation to prevent that from happening. Right. So how do you work through that?
It's weird because like I do struggle with it. I'm like, I could play that game. Like I could very easily go online and be like, I run a $4 million a year business, which is not true yet, but I'm very confident that it will be this year. But being on track to do something doesn't mean we are doing it already. And also, like, to your point, running a $4 million business or shit, we're probably going to break 5 this year. And if we keep growing, it's going to be even crazier. But that's not what I keep, like, hell, I pay myself $60K. Like everybody's like, oh my God, whatever. Like, no, man, I'm still like, I reinvest, but yeah, I mean, I could, it's weird because I'm like, I see some of these guys and I know the truth behind their numbers and I'm like, well, I could fluff all that too and get some eyeballs, but I kind of just lean towards the word of mouth authentic side. I'm like, look, it'll come back to haunt them. And I've had probably 20 or 30 people join the war room from other programs and just been like, oh, thank God. Like you guys are just, I went the wrong way. It's no BS, which is, I'm like, yeah, man, we're here for you. Like we're a flat fee once and then we're $200 a month. And if you stay in, great. And if you don't stay in, great. And we're not here to push you. We got all the resources, do what you want. Like we are a genuine group of service members and vets. We want to help you. But at the end of the day, like, a lot of these guys try to make it sound like it's easy. And I'm like, it ain't fucking easy. It's going to take a lot of work and we're not going to hold your hand. You have to do it. Like if you're not responsible for doing the thing, then don't join the group. We renamed our quote sales process as a selection process because we turn more people away than we accept into the program. I would say at least 60% of people who book a call with us don't make it through even to the phone call, let alone like past the phone call. And we even put it to where we set barriers on my application where like if you don't have a certain amount of capital liquid and a certain credit score, like one or the other, then we will just push you to a free resource. Be like, we can't, like, there's nothing we can do to help you right now, and it's not that we can't help them. We absolutely could. It's that I refuse to take, a couple $1,000 from a service member who only has $5,000 to his name. Like, not happening. You aren't in the spot yet where we can really help you scale. And I'm not going to give you this false sense of hope and take all your money. But most of these influencers, boy, like if you showed up and you were like, I want to join you and all I've got is credit card debt, they'd be like, well, let's add to your credit card debt and make it happen. And I'm like, no, that's not the game I ever want to play. So
do you think that's had, love that decision, by the way, but do you think it's had strategic impacts like for the positive on the group itself?
I think there's a few things we've done that are probably almost anti-sales that absolutely have. So one is I removed our refund policy. And I know people are like, well, that's a dick move. No. I removed the refund policy and made it blatantly clear that there is a zero, absolute, no care in the world refund policy. And my guys tell everyone that before they join, because I was like, I would rather have the guy on the fence never join than have to play with the drama of someone joining and then wanting a refund and then having buyer's remorse. And then what? So my sales guys or my selection guys, whatever, will literally tell somebody, look, dude, if you're that on the fence, like here's Dave's book, go away, come back when you're ready to actually take action. And so Like that's one thing that I think most people wouldn't do. But I'm like, at this point, I'm not dealing with refunds. It's a bunch of unnecessary drama. So if you're not serious, don't enjoy it.
So Dave, you had mentioned when we were talking about other influencers' numbers and stuff like that, you'd mentioned factoring in numbers appropriately on buy and hold investing. What have been some of the important lessons that you've learned on like how you should factor your numbers and in like actual numbers, right? Because you've held these things and you've lived it, you felt the effects. Because I know you feel passionate about accurately representing and projecting expenses, and if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that I'd say probably the biggest mistake or lesson that I learned in underwriting was really, so I live somewhere, in some markets, this isn't such a big deal. In other markets, there are very old houses. Like I live in the middle of the country. And so we've got a lot of houses that are 120 years old, 130 years old. On the West Coast, not as much. And on the East Coast, you've got 300-year-old houses, right? So it's the whole spectrum. But when you buy a house that is 60 years, 80 years, 100 years old, and you're running your numbers on it, you should probably add 5 to 10% to your CapEx. And I had to learn the hard way on a couple of these properties where in my head, I'm like, I renovated it. It's all great. Things are good. My expenses will be low. And then my 110-year-old sewer line explodes and I have a $12,500 bill. And we had scoped it too. Like everyone's like, oh, we got to scope. I'm like, we did scope, but it's 100 years old and it's cast iron. Like it's what happens. Eventually a tree root grows through it or in my case, it just decides it's old and it doesn't want to do its thing anymore. And then you have to wait for 9 months for an easement to get approved to fix it because the city had set up the house wrong. And so $12,500 later and $9,000 worth of, or probably $12,000 equal of rent not collected, and that was a house, ironically, that we went $6,000 or $7,000 over on the plumbing budget to fix stuff in the house. And then it was the part that connects to the city line that exploded. But like, that's what happens when you play with 100-year-old houses. And that was something that I had to learn the hard way. So I definitely factor in the age of the property as a whole into like, okay, this one's going to need more in reserve. This one's going to need more in CapEx. There are just inherently more things that can go wrong with this, even if we think we renovated it all the way. And then similarly with like, HVAC and all that stuff, whatever, but there's always something. So it's always, at least for me, inherited tenants can be a freaking nightmare. So make sure you screen them too. So inherited tenants and old houses with just unexpected things have been my two largest expenses. And, you can fix the inherited tenants by just not doing it or by screening them before you accept them. And you can fix the age old property thing by just having a larger budget and knowing that, this thing in this neighborhood will probably cash flow more than a brand new A-class, whatever, but it is going to have a lot higher maintenance side. So it does buffer out. And as long as you've got something set aside for those issues when they arise, no biggie, but it's going to happen at some point. So, those are probably some of the bigger ones with underwriting. I mean that, and then obviously all the normal lessons, like don't trust a pro forma, do your own homework. Especially after the fraud case I had, I'm very leery about like actual numbers. And then if you're pulling tax returns on a mom and pop, you got to back out, they might have their own pay in there. They might have there's just a lot of anomalies and stuff for the more complex things. But like I think people overcomplicate rentals so much. It's like, here's your income, take out all the expenses that happen out over the last 12 months, divide by 12. There you go. That's what you can expect. And then add in your debt. And, all the influencers try to make it like it's income minus mortgage equals cash flow. And I'm like, yeah, sure. If that's how you view your portfolio, I want to know how your bank statement looks because that's not it. But
yeah, no, that's really good. So similarly, one thing that I think I've learned looking back is it's good to trust, like you should trust. But when it comes to business, compliance and process can do a ton for you. So like, you got the whole, I was doing this deal with a gentleman the other day and he's like, man, back in my day, all it took was a handshake And I was like, yes, sir. I'll shake your hand right now. We're still going to sign this document because I want to show you that everything's on the up and up, And so even with, one of my closest friends, we're like, hey, we had a good negotiation on a business deal. Said, hey, here's what I'm agreeing to. Here's what you're agreeing to. Now let's write it all up. Let's make sure this paper looks just like we said, and let's both sign it. And all we have to worry about is, are we going to honor what's in that agreement or not? And the cool thing is it also protects us. Like, God forbid something were to ever get ugly. It's like, hey, we're gonna go to the agreement. And so that's one thing I think it's been helpful for me. And not that would have saved you totally in this case, right? Because sounds like there's some outright fraud, but yeah.
Yeah, but it definitely would have. And I definitely am much more of a stickler for that. Ironically, fun fact, Missouri is one of, I believe, only 8 states left in the country where you can legally transact real estate verbally. So like you and I could show up at my title company and be like, yeah, he agreed to this. I agreed to this. We're done. Here's the money. And like, that would be it. Ironically though, I've asked my title company, he's like, we've had that happen. We still printed out a 1-page thing that we made them both sign for our ass. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, whatever. But I mean, legally, like technically in Missouri, we could like napkin math transact a property. But to your point, I have had enough people try to back out at like the last minute on stuff or try to change things last minute. So I'm like, I have to annotate it because for whatever reason, I have this face that just says, if you like to bulldoze people, I'm your guy. Bring it. Let's try. And I've gotten better. I don't let it happen anymore. But it's definitely bit me a couple times.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, you got some good lessons learned from it. So that's good. Kind of like you were saying in the beginning, like you're like, oh, it sounds like you're not really afraid of a lawsuit. Like you've gone through, not saying you seek lawsuits, but you're like, you're like, hey man, I've been through this. Like it's
my team was giving me shit the other day. The last guy he didn't outright threaten to sue me. He CC'd his legal team on an email where he was blatantly wrong. He was absolutely in the wrong. I have a signed contract, like black and white. I'd already run it by my attorney. And I sent him a whole response outlining, on the document, like this, that, the other, like you agreed to this, you did this, you did this, you didn't do this, you didn't perform here, like whatever. And I CC'd his legal team back and was like, hey, just so you're aware, like if you're going to threaten legal action, like I was like, I didn't CC my attorney on this because I'd like to think that we can find a way around this without legal. But I do want to let you know that A, here's everything your legal team should look through before we talk. And B, I'm 4 for 4 and I have enough of a bankroll to play the game. I'm pretty bored because things are going well. So if you want to put some fun drama in my life, like I'll show up in court and banter. So just let me know if you want to go that way, but it's going to be a lot more expensive than this. And the guy like immediately was just like, oh, let's get on a call. And we worked everything out. But like I have now told, I think 3 different people, like I'm 4 for 4, bro. And you signed this. Like I'm up for the drama if you are, but you're paying my legal fees. So like your decision. And they've always been like really just BS things. Like I had a guy, you're right. I don't see, nobody wants that. I mean, I'll joke that I'm like bored and I like, I want to go debate in court, but there are far more fun and positive ways to debate than going to court. But I had a guy like on closing day, and this dude, like my tenants had already transferred to where they paid him in rent. We closed on the 1st. They paid him in rent. And then he walked on closing day from a contract to buy a building of mine, which had been an off market, like cash, 0 contingencies, him coming to me to buy the apartment. And I was like, make me a fucking offer. And he's like, this. And I was like, not good enough. And he's like, this. And I'm like, no, I don't want to sell it. This. No, dude, I really don't want to sell this property. How about this? And I was like, okay. Yeah. Like cash, no contingencies, 30-day, no ifs, ands, or buts. This dude's a commercial mortgage lender. It's a non-assignable contract. He goes to assign it. And on closing day, he's like, my buyer can't buy it. And I'm like, it wasn't assignable. And he's like, well, I got this letter saying I wasn't approved for financing. And I'm like, but the letter's from a different company and you are a commercial broker. Why aren't you lending for yourself? And he's like, so basically he's like, I want my EMD back. It was like $15,000. I'm like, no, you don't get your fucking EMD back. And he goes to like get all pissy at me. And so I just got my attorney. We basically just shot him an email, and we were like, well, what we did was we couldn't get an answer out of him for like 3 days. So we sent an email to his direct supervisor at the bank and said, we need you to freeze all of the documents on his application process for this loan because he's saying he got denied, and we need to see what happened when we go to court. And I kid you not, 2 hours, I had my EMD plus $20,000 settlement or $10,000 settlement, like in my hand with an apology and a guy like tail tucked walking out of my house. And I'm like, dude, I didn't want to go this way. But at the end of the day, like, you offered me $350,000 for a property that I owned, that I owed like 180 on, and cash, no contingencies. You're a mortgage professional, and you're using fraud to try to back out of this deal on closing day. Meanwhile, my tenants have already paid you rent. Like, this is done. Like, what are you know, what the, and so, yeah, I mean, he ended up settling it, but like, those are the things I've won, where it's, I don't go to war unless it's like egregiously like, no, dude, like, this is, and then once my like petty, like integrity is called into question, I'm like, we're going to go to court and we're going to have fun and I'm going to win. And you're going to know that this was wrong, because I kind of got that way after the first one, because I just realized, like, this dude did it to 4 people. He took $600,000+ from 4 people who just submitted and walked away. And I'm like, at this point in life, I'm like, look, man, if you're going to do this to me, you're going to do it to someone else. And I can't let you get away with it because I can't handle that. Also, legal stuff sucks, but having a really good attorney on retainer is one of the single most important things you can do in business. And I run every single contract, every single agreement, every single thing I do through her, which makes me sleep very well at night when people get really angry, because I can just CC her and be like, is this a thing? Like, do I need to worry about this? And she's like, nope, here you go. You're fine. Do this. I'm like, cool. Because the reality is, most of these lawsuits are they're just people who don't want to take responsibility for things. And they think that if they sue, you'll just cower and give them whatever. And so, like, I've had a couple people file that, well, trying to think if there's been anyone else who actually filed a lawsuit against me. I think the only one that was actually a lawsuit against me was in that lease option. He tried to pierce the corporate veil and come after me personally for damages, which the judge and bailiff laughed at him about. So, yeah.
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 Given the circumstances, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, that was a whole thing. Like, I think we won full three misdemeanor and or felony. I don't think they were felony, but we won 3 out of 4. And the only reason we didn't win the 4th thing that we went after him for was because the 3rd point would have had to be false for the 4th. Like, it was one of those, like, you can't win this one if you don't, whatever. But like, we just absolutely destroyed. That one's funny, actually, because that dude, he ultimately lost the building 2 months later, because when we got the judgment, he didn't pay. And he was like, I'm going to appeal, but in order to appeal, you have to put the full judgment in escrow at the courthouse. And he wouldn't do it. And he missed the deadline. So my attorney's like, he's not going to appeal. He missed it. So we filed the judgment to foreclose on the building to get the judgment. And then he made it whole. He settled. He did whatever. Like, cool. But he then forgot to tell. The bank had accelerated the mortgage. They realized we were going to buy it. And so the day after our foreclosure auction would have happened, or whatever they call that auction, the day after our auction would have happened, they put an auction up for the debt they had on the building. And he didn't show and did not tell them that we had reneged. And I got this phone call like 6 weeks later that's like, why did my building just get auctioned out from under me? And we're like, I don't know. And it turns out, like, his bank called the note. He didn't pay it and he didn't show. And so he still lost this like $3 million building to a wholesaler for like $600,000. So it's a very weird, like, whole situation where I'm just like sitting back going, man, talk about freaking karma, I guess. Like, the bank just ruined you. Legal's, it's actually better than that, but I can't tell the last twist on a recording. So sorry. I'll give you the real goods. I'll give you the real goods at the end. But it's even wilder.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah. This is why, like, man, a big part of what I do is just based on, my value of faith. And it's like, hey man, when you do things the wrong way, like you can't complain at the consequences. And it's like, man, like he built that house of cards, 100% built that house of cards. Like how, from a logical standpoint, how can you complain? Like you built it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was full on karma. And every time I drive by that building, I'm like, I still kind of wish that it worked out.
Yeah, man, it sounded good when you started first talking about it. Cause I know Branson, and I was like, sounds like not a bad place. And it's in Branson. Like,
if you're familiar enough with Branson, if you know where the shops are, like the, not the landing, but there's like a retail shop section that's like all like, not clearance, but like it's outlet. It's all outlet stores, the Taney outlet store or whatever like that. Yeah. So it's all the outlets right there. This property is like on the corner of the busiest street in Branson, right next to it. And so it's beautiful. It's like right next to the water park they're building. Like it is a baller 64,000 square foot building on an incredible corner. And somebody bought it from that wholesaler, I think, for like $720,000. And it's probably just crushing because I'm telling you, even after everything went south on that property, it was still raking in like $17,000 a month in income. And it had been marketed at like $34,000 a month. But I mean, at 17 grand a month, like you buy that thing for $1 million, you're cooking.
He's on 700,000. Yeah. Geez, dude. Oh my gosh.
He's crushing whoever bought that thing. And if he does right by it, that'll be like the best investment he ever. I wanted to buy it, from the auction house. And then when he settled, I didn't get to. And I'll tell you what, if I had known that it was going to go to that bank auction, I would have showed up and I would have found out how to do it. But yeah.
I'll go buy the building.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, if I'd been able to buy that thing for under $1 million, I would have just rocked with it for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. All right. Well, Dave, so man, at what point did the military millionaire community, War Room Mastermind, and that part of what you do, when did that opportunity really like strike you as something that you should pursue? And when did you really start going all in on it from like a business standpoint?
Yeah. So I started the brand in 2018, hobby blog, blogging, YouTube, podcast, just talking about what I was doing and learning about military benefits and real estate investing and whatever. I was in the red until probably December of 2019. And the only thing that brought me out was the War Room. But I mean, it was like break even. So I was like paying out of pocket to build this thing as a hobby, no intention of monetization, no idea how it would ever work. The mastermind was kind of just like I'm in some masterminds. What if we had one where it was like all service members and they all had like the same connection, right? Because we all have that. I noticed that like every event I went to, service members always ended up hanging out and congregating. And so I had this epiphany. I'm like, dude, I'm in 4 or 5 mastermind groups and they're all great. But just because you're into real estate investing doesn't mean you have anything else in life in common. So having the commonality of service member and then a shared interest I was like, I feel like that would make people sticky. Like they'd hang out longer and it would be more valuable and they'd like it more. And then, so we launched that and I had total imposter syndrome, no idea what I was doing. And I think I charged $50 a month and I, again, barely made any money on that for the amount of effort I put into it for years. And I would say it was in 2020 was the first time I looked up and was like, oh, this whole thing is growing. Like it just kind of started moving organically. And I was like, damn, I have like, this actually could be like a business of its own. And then it was probably 2021 as I was getting out of the Marine Corps that I was like, I started doing more and more wholesaling. And so by the end of 2021, I was doing like 4 deals a month. And mid 2022, like by March of 2022, I think we'd done 16 transactions for the year. And I was just burnt out. I was like, dude, this is like, I have to feed the beast. Wholesaling is not my jam. It takes away from everything else I want to put time into. I was like, I'm not making any money on the business because all my time is going to this. And while this is profitable, it's stressful. It's annoying. It's just like the freaking rat race, but it does make really good money. Like we were making, I think that last month we did like 60K in revenue and I kept 30% of it. And so it was not bad, but I just saw the potential in the brand for the first time. And I was like, the brand is fun. Like I wake up and I want to work on the brand. It's fulfilling. Like I can make 10 grand selling a house, but I can also make 10 grand helping a bunch of other service members make 10 grand. And that's like no tenant ever thanks you, right? No one's ever like, oh, thank you for letting me pay rent, Mr. Landlord. So there's good money, but it's not fulfilling. And so I was wrestling with this. I'm like, I'm doing well, but I'm stressed. It's not fitting my personality. I feel like I'm just on a treadmill. And while it's scalable and I could bring in a COO, like I don't enjoy this business model like I thought I would. And then I got this other thing that I'm always pissed off I'm having to drop to go work on this. And it's making a couple $1,000 a month, not enough to eat, but it's fun and it's fulfilling. And I'm like, you know what? Let's see what happens. And so I sold the wholesaling company. And not like for a profit. I did like hey, I get 10% of your profit share for the next 3 years and first right of refusal on any deals in my town. And, which is cool. I got an extra deal or two out of that. And then I probably made really only like 10 or 12 grand on the sale because they ended up kind of shutting it down a year and a half in and going all in on a different market. So I didn't make a ton of money off that sale, but I got it off my plate and I got it out of my mental bandwidth. And between that year and the next year, wrestling with like wrapping up the last few flips and kind of that stuff and tying all that in and then trying to get this thing moving while like dealing with what ended up being an imminent divorce that I was trying to like save from going to divorce, mentally I was just not there. And it was still growing, but it was, it was kind of a drag and my mental bandwidth I was mopey. I was just not producing. I was dealing with all this shit. And then I got divorced. I did a lot of like personal health, mental health, whatever. And I went all in on this thing and having focus, time, and being like just happy, like just to enjoy the process. Like to put in perspective, I think we did, and this is all revenue. I'm not going to like, we can talk my net, but it's not huge yet. My goal this year is to work on the margin. But like in 23, I think we did 600 in revenue, which was not bad. Like nothing, I had a much smaller team, a lot lower overhead. Like I think my net on 23 was like 186 is what I paid taxes on. So like not bad. And arguably my margin has gotten worse as we've gotten larger. But we did 1.58 in 2024. So 2.5x. And we did 1.2 in Q1 of this year. So we're on the track for like a 3 or 4x, if not 5x. I don't know if we'll get 5. We'll see. Things are growing kind of crazy. We went from like our best month being 30K in 23 to our best month being 117K in 24 to our best month to every month this year has been over 300. And it's been a whole lot of it has been me just believing that I can actually do the thing. It's been hiring. I mean, my payroll is crazy right now. It's actually funny because I'm negotiating a raise with somebody right now, and assuming that they get anywhere close to what they want, I will actually be the third highest paid employee on my team. So I'm like, but I'll also, I mean, I get the ability to like run travel. Like I run my travel through the, company, and then I pay. So like, we all know it's business owner math where my W-2 is X, but there's plenty of other stuff that I get the benefit of, like this house, which is an office that I just happen to live at. But dude, it's been a wild freaking journey. So to answer your point, I mean, it was like, I started it in 2018. It wasn't until 2021 that I was like, oh shit, like this is real. I should probably like this could be a real thing. Like I should do this. And then even then it wasn't until I would say 23, 24 that I really started to like believe and step into growth and what was possible and really like realize and believe like, no, we are changing lives. Like this is what's crazy to me is like, we've been at the War Room for 5.5 years now. And like, as well as anyone else, business and or real estate and or anything finance, it's not like you join a group and 2 months later you're financially free and living on a beach. You join a group and it might be 5-6 years before you see the actions of the fruits of what you were doing. And so I'm looking at it, I'm like, dude, every day people are reaching out about all these things that have changed their life. And some of it is people I've never even talked to that I had no idea. Like a guy messaged me like 2 days ago and was like, dude, I bought this duplex 4 years ago after listening to your podcast. I did XYZ. Like I just sold it and made $450,000. And I'm like, Never talked to the guy before. So like, that's what's crazy to me. And what's cool is like, we're at the starting point. Some of these things that people are doing, we aren't even going to know about for 5-10 years if they ever say a word. And so it's just fulfilling, man. You know, it's really cool.
Man, that's really cool. That's not something I've heard before, but yeah, like the education business has a cycle, right? Like it's kind of like a deal. Sometimes like on certain deals, whether it's a multifamily, single family, shoot, it could be even a business. It has a cycle, and so you make some assumptions. You think, all right, hey, strategically, I'm going this route, but we'll kind of prove out my hypothesis at the end. And then, like a flip, right? It's like, well, I bought at X price. I'm going to do X. It's going to sell at X. And it takes going full circle, closing day, cash in your pocket before you're like, oh, okay, yep, I was right here and I was wrong here. And then you learn some things. It is really cool because you're saying you get to see that with your community members too. And then you get like the testimonial, the like, man, just the fulfillment from helping people. I think that's something that a lot of us entrepreneurs have in common. We truly do like helping people, even in the most selfish sense. It like fulfills us, but like, it's like, it's just one of those things, man.
There's nothing cooler than when you hear someone did a deal or something that was like, they're giving you credit for like the idea and then they ran with it and did everything. And you're like, dude, all I did was point you in the right direction. But like the funny thing is the more that I run this community, the larger number of people I can point to and be like, did a better deal than I ever did. I've never made that much on a real estate deal. Like there's guys, like there's a dude in my group who I'm not going to take the credit for him having done this, but the community, and that's what's cool. The community does a lot, right? This dude's first deal was a ground up development. Now he had cash because he was like a retired vet. He was a retired corporate. Like he had some money. So he funded this himself with a loan, but like he was already financially well enough off that he could do this. But it was all just like sitting in an IRA or an index fund or whatever. It wasn't like, whatever. His very first deal, he puts 850,000 or so all into it, maybe 1.2, whatever. It appraises at like 2.5. So he pulls all his money back plus like $500,000 and it cash flows $5,000 or $6,000 a month averaged out net over the first year as an Airbnb on the beach in Florida. And he's like, yeah, I got a vacation home that I just made $500,000 off and it pays me to own it. And I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, I can't use you as an example because it's an anomaly, but also I want to like just scream about you from the rooftops. That's amazing. And now he's on to like his second or third development project. And he's, and there's guys in the group that are just netting 6-7 figures in their businesses and they'll give credit, but it's like, dude, so much of it is you, but it's just, it's so cool to be able to like, all you got to do is like, in the space I'm in, all I really have to do is remove either the limiting belief or the problem in somebody's deal. And then as long as they are a go-getter, they will run with it, which is why I love service members and vets, because you point and they will go, especially Marines. We're too dumb. We're just like, you point at a thing and they will run until they go through the wall. And you're like, no, you could have gone around the wall. And they're like, you said go that. I'm like, all right, whatever, dude. It worked. But yeah, it's cool, man. It's super, super cool. And it's just all these validations that come in. Because when you first start this, you're like, I believe what I'm saying, but there's no proof to back up that it actually works for other people. And now it's like daily, weekly, we're getting just like, holy crap, this is cool.
That's good. So Dave, what strategies or like pivotal moments for you come to mind when it comes to creating a community that like not only people join, but they actually stay? It's like you said, it's sticky and have contributed to 70,000 plus members in the From Military to Millionaire community and the several hundred within the war room.
640.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wild.
I check it every so often, and I remember when it was it's like 50.
You're an OG, man. Yeah,
it is. Dude.
It is. It's. We had more people join this quarter than the first 2 years. Which is pretty, but it's also, it's wild. It's been a whole thing for sure. Well, let's see. I think the one thing that I did inadvertently, like this was totally inadvertent, but that I think I did that actually has ended up very well for the group, is I never like positioned myself as like a guru. It's always been like me trying to facilitate a community. And so like people join, like the Better Life tribe a lot of times because they want to be around Brandon Turner. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But people join this group. Like I have people get on, we literally last week, one of my selection guys was like, or it was one of my onboarding guys. He's like, is it a requirement that members know who Dave is? Because this guy has no idea who Dave is. And I was just like, no, that's the coolest win we've ever had. I was like, so I looked through the notes and sure as shit, like a friend of his is in the group, has been in the group for 2 years and was like, dude, you have to join, and referred him to the group. Didn't say anything. And the guy's like, oh, dude, military community, this is awesome. I'm so stoked and joined and paid in full, like happy to be there. And my onboarding guy's like, he doesn't even know who you are. And I was like, that's awesome. It's word of mouth. Like, it's cool because I tried not to make it about me because I'm just your normal dude. Like I've tried to be like, I am by no means a big fish in that group anymore. It's just trying to pull people together. So we've always been community focused. So like we'll do these when we do our like live events or whatever, we're like, okay, we're going out on a yacht or we're doing tubing or like we're doing like a fun activity together for like team building community. Like the coolest thing people say when they come to our live events is that it was the first time they were able to feel like be themselves since they left the military. And like they were actually like they belonged. And I think that's why people stay. They come for the investing, the real estate, the financial freedom, the whatever, and they stay because it's a genuine community of service members and vets that is unlike a lot of the unfortunate communities we all know about online where they just shit on everybody and they're just victims and they just hate on each other. We have yet, like nobody in our group in the 6 years, I'm going to knock on wood because I refuse to let this happen. But in the 6 years we've been around, we're now at 640 vets. Not one person has even attempted to kill themselves. And or at least they haven't said anything, which, but we've not lost anyone to that. And this is a huge problem within the veteran community. And everybody's like, well, how do you solve it? And I'm like, I think we figured it out. Like it's you go outside and you get around people that are uplifting. And we've got this community of people that don't shit on you. They will hold you accountable, but from a place of love. And anyone who were to ever do otherwise and just be an asshole would be booted. And it's never happened. And so it's a really, really, really cool community that we've allowed to facilitate and thrive. And that's the main driver. As far as me and getting out of my own way, I joked about this with you before the show, but dude, I did freaking mushrooms twice and, both like guided, like shaman, like ceremonies. The first one was a whole bunch of personal development, but the second one was like the first time in my life that I've ever been able to like look myself in the mirror and be like, you have it. Like you are enough. You've got everything. Like you are holding yourself back for no reason. Go all in. It was a very weird, like hard to explain kind of thing. But I mean, it 100%, like I can point at that day on a map and be like, we have 6x the business since then or whatever the math is. But I mean, like it's just been like this and it's been like higher, like just believing and actually pushing and running. Like it changed everything. And it's just because I was always playing at like 80% and I was just like holding back a little bit. Like, what if they don't like me? What if this? And I'm like, no, like we have a proven thing that works. Why are we holding back? Let's change the world. And like, I'm not going out and telling everyone you should go do, hallucinates. But there is a place where, and there's a reason that the VA is like testing psilocybin for PTSD and depression. And I will tell you, as a guy with PTSD who was depressed to shit after his divorce, it worked for me. So like 100%, I won't go on record recommending it, but I definitely would not talk you out of it. I mean, that was huge for me. It changed my whole life. Both times changed my whole life for different reasons. And we don't need to get into the personal one on the first one, but, great things.
I love that, man. There's so much there to unpack. So I'll start with this first, because you'd mentioned this earlier. The more I do this podcast, I get to talk with other entrepreneurs, the more, I mean, dude, business is my new sport. Business is my thing now. And I am freaking obsessed. And so I like learning from other people and making these observations. I'm also very like, philosophical. And so I'm like, what is it that's like, what are the buttons being pushed here? And there's like strategically, there's two things for me. There's like an internal and external. And the internal is like your beliefs, like literally your beliefs, what goes on in your head. And then externally is the skills. Like you got to learn the skills regardless. Like you have to learn sales, you got to learn operations, you got to learn how to hire, you got to learn how to fire, blah, 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 blah. And it's funny because you had mentioned in the group, a lot of times people think it's the skills and they think they need tactics, think they need a different way. A lot of times it's like they just need the internal. And it's like, you can't tell them that though. But you're like watching them. And so it's the same can be said for ourselves. And you just said something that like kind of hit me where you're like, it was the first time I could look in the mirror and just be like, dude, you're capable. Like you can do this. And it's like, man, that makes sense to me. Like you probably everything you've had, the resources, the money, the whatever, the skills probably you've had around you. And it just took something within you to say, dude, I can do this. I can talk to this person. I can initiate this thing. I can hire this person. And like now it's like you're growing like wildfire. You said you've 6x the business. It's amazing.
It is. It's like I always equate it to like driving with a limiter. It's like you have a car that is governed at 100 miles an hour, but could do 150. And all you have to do is like push a button to open it up, but you don't. Well, why not? I don't know. Everyone's got their reason, right? I don't necessarily know why I never opened it up, but I was holding back for sure for a lot of things and a lot of reasons and a lot of benefits. And it's, what's cool is like, I'm not necessarily taking a ton more profit out of the company right now. Sure, there is some, right? And I mean, I was finally able to buy a car that I wanted, which anyone who knows my story knows I sold all my toys to get into real estate, and I rolled them and rolled it and rolled it and rolled it. And I kept talking myself out of, I would set a goal and be like, I'll buy my car when this happens. And then it would happen. I'd be like, okay, I'll buy my car when this happens. And then it would happen. And finally one of my coaches in January was like, go buy the fucking car this week or take it off your list. And so I bought the car. And that has been huge for me too. So like, there's been like, I have gotten more out of it, but the cool thing has been like a joke about payroll, but I'm able to like, I've got longtime good friends on the team now that are able to make a full living while like we were on a Zoom call yesterday, a 30-minute Zoom call with one of the other team members who doesn't live in Missouri. And we hop on the Zoom call and me and one of the members who does live here are smoking a cigar and having a bourbon. And he's like, I hate you guys. I'm like, move. Like, we're here, but it's just like, I'm like, we're able to have like a team meeting sitting outside, like smoking a cigar, hanging out. Like it's really cool to be able to like, I've got people that I genuinely like and care on the team that are like genuine friends who want to lean more into it. Like the negotiating a raise is essentially someone being like, currently this was part-time and I want to go all in on it. So what do we need to come to for me to quit all my other endeavors and do all this? And like, that's a really cool conversation to be having where you're like, the team believes in it enough that they're like, I want to stop doing other stuff. I want this to be my focus, which is one of the reasons that this is just like, it's going very well. And it's allowing us to reinvest in things for the company. I just dropped, I don't know if you saw it in the Facebook group this morning, right before we hopped on, I dropped the link to the Austin event in September. But I mean, we just dropped like $30,000 as deposits to launch that event. And we're going to have probably $70,000 into that thing. And it's going to be kick ass for everyone involved. And it'll be members only because that was the feedback we got. And it's going to be, we've got some pretty high level speakers that already said yes. And it's cool to be able to like put all that on. And it's like, it is fun. For the first time, I'm like, holy shit, like this is just fun. And there's like, to your point, business is absolutely a sport. And if you can find something that you like are just passionate about and also decent at, like, boy, hire someone to help with the ops and run. It is fun. And there will be downsides again, but we just keep breaking everything in like the right way. And it's been really cool.
I love it, dude. Ah, man. Good stuff there. Well, Dave, as we start to wrap up here, what's on the horizon for you moving forward with the communities, with real estate? What do you have in store for us?
Well, the real estate space, I've been holding some powder for a little bit. I sold off some of my crap houses. I'm really starting to network more locally. I want to start either development or just buying larger assets here. I walked a 125 unit last week. It was too close to retail pricing and not enough value add, but I'm very interested in really starting to go more all in on my local market and raising money for my own like development deals. So I want to do bigger and again, more fulfilling deals. I want to, like, if the numbers are the exact same, I would rather own one really cool building that I'm proud to show my son than 10 buildings that pay the same that are like crack houses, which is where my portfolio has been. It's been a lot of, houses that you're like, I own that, and your kid doesn't care at all. So now I'm leaning towards like, I want to build or buy stuff that's like, I own that. And like, for example, I'm a part owner of a hotel in Tennessee. We hosted an event there last month or 2 months ago. And I get to stay there for free, a couple weeks a year because I'm a part owner. Right. And so like last year I took my son there for a week on vacation during the summer. And like the whole time it's like, he's like wants to jump on the bed. And I'm like, absolutely. Who cares? We own it. Or like, oh, Dad, the pool's closed. No, it's not. I have the key. Like, let's go hop in the pool after hours. Like, it's super cool. And I'm like that side of investing. So I'm like really excited about like getting into more stuff that I can, he can touch and feel, and like I can have experience with him about, rather than just the money. So again, the fulfillment side. And then on the business, dude, I don't know. I got on a call with my coach last week and we were going through Q2 goals. And so we referenced all the annual goals that we had set at the end of December. And half the annual goals are done in Q1. I was like, fuck, I need to, like, this is good, but holy shit. Like, yeah, I'm like, we wanted to be at 600 members by December 31st of 2025. We're at 640 and it's April 2nd. It's funny because like it's growing like wildfire and we're not putting all of our focus there. What we're putting our focus on is like, okay, now we can host 6 events instead of 2. Now we're going to do 2 like intimate, like Airbnb events, but 4 regional pop-ups where it's like totally free for members, 1-day thing. We drop like $5,000, show up, pay for beer, speakers, whatever, come hang out. So we're just all in on how do we make the community aspect cooler? Like, how do we make this a community where you join and you're just like immediately loved on? So we're going to see. It's going to be fun, man. The goal is to help 10,000 vets achieve financial freedom by 2030 or 2035, I guess. But, we're going to see what happens.
10,000 by 2035. Got it. Cool, dude. I love that, man. Love to hear it. That the real estate thing speaks to me so much because I'll phrase it like this. In a nutshell, you literally said what I'm doing here. And for a lot of the same reasons, man, just I want to develop my community. I want to say, yeah, we did that. We own that. And I want everybody to feel that value, like 100%.
There's a lot of ways to look at it. The one way I look at it is like, there's a family in town here that owns 2 of the nightclubs and 4 of the nicest like restaurants, like steakhouse or whatever in town. And it's like every single person in Missouri knows their name. Now I'm not necessarily saying that's why I'm doing it, but I'm like, it's cool that everybody knows like, oh yeah, that family owns these 6 prominent things and we all love them. And I've never met the guys, whatever, but it's like, it's just that ideology of like, there's that side to investing too, where it's like, if I'm going to own a bunch of stuff that pays me, why not own stuff that's like cool? Like, I don't necessarily want to go to the steakhouse game, but I'm like, there are cool assets that I would enjoy. Like maybe it's a coffee shop or I own the building where a coffee shop rents and then I can go hang out at the coffee shop I just think that'd be a fun way to do it. And like you said, developing the community and making an impact. Once you figure out how to make money, it all becomes about how to scratch the fulfillment and impact itch. At least if you're not a schmuck. Money's overrated.
No, I agree totally. And it's like, for me at least, it's like a new definition of freedom. That's what like real freedom is. Well, cool, Dave. Well, man, amazing to hear all that stuff. I'm stoked to, get to be on the sidelines and watch your journey. Before we go, where can our listeners, connect with you, stick along for your journey, connect with, Military and Millionaire community, War Room Mastermind, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I would say, if they go to, the link is thebestpodcastguest.com. It'll drop them a link where they can download my book for free. And then all my social media is listed there as well.
Love it. All right, y'all. Well, Dave, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure. For our listeners, until next time, see ya.